That's the first and most critical thing that I see missed, is that companies over and over will hire for a role and then not define the responsibility.
Quick starts hiring other people, and they've basically figured it out, and they expect other people to figure it out. Isn't that usually what's going on?
I call it FITFO, which is figure it the bleep out. So you're a middle management person who like figured it out, and now you're tasked with replicating that to other people, and you're like, I guess they'll figure it out or they'll get fired.
It's sort of like hazing in a fraternity.
100%.
It's like, I went through this, you have to go through it.
The value of a new employee is not just the job that they can do, it's the perspective they have on the job you're already doing.
So where are we?
Well, we got kicked out of the other place, so we're still in my home and my office. That's where we physically are. Is that what you were asking?
We keep changing outfits and look at like
we don't know why.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going through this process. The next question that I want to talk through is, where are we in the process? And the question that you work with is, where are we in the training process, right? But I want to sort of zoom out and talk about what I think of as orientation, which is like, where are we? Like, what's happening? So in your work, is that a thing? Like, do you see people who just feel disoriented? They don't really know where they are in the process of what they're doing?
I would imagine anybody listening or watching this right now is going, you mean that's not the way we're supposed to feel all the time?
That is kind of a thing, isn't it? In a lot of places of work, people feel lost, but just too scared to say, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And especially when there's any amount of growth. So I talk about this idea that growth always creates chaos. Chaos always creates anxiety, and that anxiety leaves rooms for vacuum. And so what I mean by that is, you coming into a new job is a growth moment. Like, I didn't have the job, now I have the job. And there's chaos now. And you don't exactly know, if you think about any new company as like the physical building, you don't know where the bathrooms are yet, you don't know where your cubicle is yet, or your office. And you could hypothetically, almost like, what was that Tom Hanks movie where he was a man without a country and he was just kind of stuck in the airport?
Oh yeah, Terminal.
Terminal. You could just kind of find places in the building to occupy for 6 months. And as long as the check just keeps on clearing, you can find places to hide. And I find that a lot of companies are weirdly wired to actually benefit that way of thinking, of going, hey, you're smart, you're here, we'll figure it out over time. We just needed to make the hire. We needed to say on paperwork, we've got this person. And so what typically happens, you go, you're smart, we hired you for a reason, you go figure it out. And so it leaves all of this ambiguity of like, figure what out, what's the starting point, what's the win, where are you wanting me to go? I did this in a previous job, but it looks very different here in this culture. How do you guys operate together? And so I think most people are sitting around on a Tuesday going, so hold on, what are we doing here? Where am I in my development, either professionally or even just onboarding into the role?
Your wise and inimitable brother, Jerome.
He is both those things, both wise and imitable.
Yes, hard to say. He said, you know, everybody's got 5 senses, and he says you can actually live without all of these senses, but there's one sense, there's a 6th sense you can not live without, which is movement.
Yeah.
The sense of moving through the world and being acquainted with the world.
Yeah.
And that if you stop moving, you die, right, on a very real level. Like, you just lie down and don't ever get back up. And I was reading a while back about kind of like the psychological concept of orientation, that when you are teaching a child how to survive in the world, you're giving them some concrete ideas. The sky is blue. This is how government works. Listen to your teachers, you know.
That is a conversation I remember having with my 3-year-old.
I don't know.
Listen, Charlie, this is how government works.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Like,
you had different bedtime stories in your house.
Whatever. God, fairy tales, Santa. These are the concrete ideas that you grow up with. Democracy. But this is orientation, and this is how you learn to move through the world. And if you, you know, I was thinking about Jerome, because if you're dizzy, if you're disoriented, if you can't move well through the world, nothing makes sense. And we take orientation for granted. The fact that, like, there's gravity, I'm like, there's a lot of things that I take for granted that if you messed with those things, if I had perpetual vertigo, I'm gonna go crazy. None of this is gonna make sense. It's not good.
Quite
The,
literally, by the way.
yeah,
We're not going to figuratively go crazy,
go
because if you tear apart or destroy the vestibular system, the thing that tells you I'm sitting upright in this chair and all is well,
yeah,
and there's stasis and I'm
right.
safe. What my brain then tells me when that vestibular system breaks is you're just falling all the time.
Yeah.
There is constant threat of pain or death in all moments. By the way, for a lot of people, that's what their job feels like. I'm constantly falling. They call it failing. And there's the threat of real pain or death all the time because I don't know where safety exists.
Yeah, and I think we take this for granted. We think of these things as like I think of them as like indulgences, luxuries, like thinking of like, what would life be like if dot dot dot, while taking for granted the fact that like I'm good, I'm here, I'm secure, and that's 99% of just getting through life is feeling psychologically safe, uh, feeling physically safe and centered. And most people on a day-to-day basis, um, either, as you said, feel maybe so safe that they're bored, or so in over their head that it's absolutely, anxiety producing. But it seems to me that, kind of on both sides of that equation, clarity is helpful. Here's what is expected of you. Here's what you're a part of. Here's kind of the next thing that you need to do.
Yeah, because to your point, it's what am I orienting myself to? And it's going, I need the clarity of two things. We always need the clarity of these two things in life. What is my starting point? What is my desired end point? Because think about this in terms of a plane flight. James Clear talked about this in his book. And he said, if you're taking off from LA, you at least know you're in LA. But now you need to know where New York is if that's where you're trying to go. But vice versa, if I know I'm trying to get to Manhattan, but I don't know if I'm taking off from LA or Austin, Texas, those are vastly different flight patterns and gas needs and plane and all this sort of stuff. So we have to know both of those things almost all the time. And by the way, if on your trajectory in LA, if you took off, pointed at Manhattan, and you're off by even 1 degree, you don't have clarity on that flight path, you don't end in Manhattan, you land in DC. I mean, that's a plane full of really pissed off people because we didn't know both those things, the starting point and the end point, well enough to navigate those two. And I think that's true of a lot of companies, is we hire really well-intentioned, smart people, and we call ourselves well-intentioned, and then we're like, figure out the flight plan. And they're like, but hold on, what city are we taking off from? Oh, it doesn't matter. You'll figure it out. Hey, what city are we going to? Oh, you'll figure that. Watch the other planes and just fly where they fly. And you're like, we might run into each other. What are we supposed to do here? And we're like, well, we're moving too fast to slow down to give you a flight plan.
Yeah, and I mean, as somebody who has flown a lot of planes,
On them or flying them? Like you flew them?
I've watched a lot of movies on a lot of continental flights. Is all I'm saying. It's not just that you have a great flight plan and you know where you're starting and where you're ending up. It's the fact that all along that flight path, you or the autopilot software mechanism, whatever they call it, is making tiny corrections as they go and alterations. And sometimes you got to circle the airport if somebody else is landing, or you got to stop to fuel up. There's those, outlier moments. But the pilot is responsible for knowing where you start, where you end up, how you're going to get there, and making course corrections along the way. And it seems to me, in my experience working in an organization, it's, you may have a plan. You may have somebody who goes, this is where we're starting, this is where we're ending. But that's pretty rare, but it's exceptionally rare to have those things and then to be course correcting along the way, checking in. How are we doing? Is this still working? What else do we need to get going? And so that's where the question, where are we in the process comes from. So when do you ask this question? When do you use this question in like a work setting?
So I use this as an onboarding tool. So this has to be day one. We're setting kind of the course and we're talking about the culture. And there's really 4 parts to this. Inside, we use shapes for everything because I'm an 8-year-old and I like simple things. And so the people development is a square because there's 4 parts to onboarding somebody from day one to I'm so good at this now I could train somebody else.
So you said you're a square, just to clarify. There's
Yeah.
there.
That was a nice 1950s burn right there. That was
Okay, so the question is where are we in the training process, and then the tool is people development. Is that right?
exactly. And so if you're again thinking of the square, you've got 4 parts and 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're looking at the top of the square and you go to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. At the top of the square, I'm just at the job. I just got here. And say you are the creative director and I'm going to be on your team. You're like, hey, Carl, I want you to post to social. I'll be like, okay. My first day on the job, I don't know the logins. I don't know the tone of our content. I haven't seen our branding guide, but I did social for somebody else before. And you're like, okay, you're going to be our social media manager and I'm going to be your creative director. Great. Well, for the very first part of the job, I need to watch somebody else do it. I need to be able to go, okay, this is where they're going for Instagram. This is what the username and password are. This is the cadence of them posting. So at the very beginning, I'm watching. So stage 1 is you do, I watch. If you're the person training or onboarding me and I'm the new employee, you're going to do the thing and I'm going to just watch you and soak that in. Because this is a place for great questions. I also tell CEOs and executives all the time, the value of a new employee is not just the job that they can do, it's the perspective they have on the job you're already doing. Because they're the best person to ask new questions like, hey, why do we do it that way? Oh, okay, well, historically, we haven't asked that in a while. Why are we doing it that way? Hey, have you ever heard about this software that could also do? Oh, well, we can look into that. So it's a new set of eyes asking, is this the most efficient, best way to do that particular task?
Yep. So when you say where are we in the process, these are the 4 steps of the process. And step 1 is you should be watching somebody else do it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's interesting to think about the value of somebody new coming into your organization, because we often think of that organizationally as kind of a burden. I've got to train this person. They don't know anything. It's going to cost money to hire them, cost me time to interview all these other people. Now it's going to cost me a bunch of time to train them and get them kind of back up to speed, compared to wherever the last person was.
Sure.
Or if I did this, I've got to train somebody else to do it now. And you're right that the longer you stay somewhere, the less inquisitive you become, because there's all this stuff that's taken for granted. And it's funny, being married to a Canadian, who is often observing things in American culture, whether we're going through an election or she's just,
Wait, there's an election?
or she's just like standing in line at a coffee shop. She's like, why do people do this way? Now, I'm generally a critic of most things, that I'm surrounded by. So I'm always kind of noticing how weird and stupid culture and society are. But she'll ask me these questions, and still my knee-jerk reaction is like, that's just how it is. Don't ask. And you realize anytime you're in a pretty complex system, say in the United States of America, she'll ask me a question about like, so how does the Electoral College work? When I'm like, it's like, I don't know.
Daylight savings time. Why is that still a thing? Oh, it's the farmers. Yeah, but why now? I don't know.
I don't know. And some states don't do it?
Yeah, because Arizona's just decided we're good.
I don't.
Yeah.
So you really never know what time it is anywhere, and you're having to like confirm with people in the UK who'd celebrate it 2 weeks later. Very difficult. Yeah, but you realize how much of your life is really just based on assumptions when you get an outside perspective. And I think that that's an interesting idea for anybody who trains other people on how to do things, that there is this really nice honeymoon period where you've got somebody new on your team, where you have a limited window from an outside perspective. You basically have hired a consultant, to come and help you see potential dysfunction in what you're doing. But I mean, I imagine that takes a lot of humility, awareness, and margin to think that.
Yeah, imagine's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because I think you can For a lot of people, they go, we want to make this thing better, but they're under the confines of we've got a KPI or we have to go get the win. And so typically what you see on the square is people will go from 1 straight to 4. It's going, you're here. Okay, now you've got it. Let me know if you've got any questions. And it's literally the worst thing that you can do to yourself, to the employee, to the culture. Because, I ask people on a regular basis now, anybody here ever had a 10 out of 10 onboarding experience? Anybody here have the world's best training that you would recommend to somebody else? And unless they were in something that they deeply believed in, like the military, and they were in some sort of special services or special ops where millions of dollars were spent on their training, people are not going, that was an incredibly good experience and I felt well cared for and it was really robust and beautiful. As opposed to, no, it was anxiety ridden, it was too short and it was unhelpful. And maybe I was shoved, kind of in a training center with a VHS tape thrown in a standing TV in the corner and then figured, okay, after 4 hours you're trained, go jump on the forklift. And so, if we're wanting to get better at this, if we're wanting to have great relationships, if we're wanting to have great companies, we have to go, oh, the next step is I'm now going to give you part ownership of this. So what that looks like is you go from 1 to 2. It's now going, okay, I went from doing 0% of the job to now I can do up to 25% of the job. So going back to you're the creative director, I'm the social media manager, I can do about 25 of the things on my responsibilities list. By the way, that's the first and most critical thing that I see missed, is that companies over and over will hire for a role and then not define the responsibility. Oh, here's your title. Okay, well, what do I do on a Tuesday? Oh, we'll figure that out.
Don't you think that's like, I don't know, quick starts hiring other people and they've basically figured it out and they expect other people to figure it out? Isn't that usually what's going on?
Yeah, typically what's happened with people who are in middle management is you were a frontline worker who got good at your particular thing. You then get promoted and are then asked to manage other people who have not advanced or are new and don't have your same level of, I call it FITFO, which is figure it the bleep out. So you're a middle management person who figured it out. And now you're tasked with replicating that to other people. And you're like, I guess they'll figure it out or they'll get fired.
It's sort of like hazing in a fraternity.
100%.
It's like, I went through this, you have to go through it.
Yeah.
And I was in a fraternity. And I was like the totally chill, didn't drink, didn't go crazy, intellectual-ish kind of guy in the fraternity. And then I made it in. And then it came time for the next, batch of pledges. And I totally got sucked into the hazing and putting them through hell, even though I was going to be somebody different. It's like that Stanford prison experience.
Yeah.
It's like the environment changes everything. So if you had to struggle to make it here, you're not going to make it that easy on the person you have to train because you figured it out, and therefore they're going to have to figure it out as well.
Which is so fascinating because the research doesn't bear that out in terms of what actually produces great companies, cultures, advancements.
It's not like this dog eat dog.
No, the struggle isn't the God that we should all worship and go, well, if you can survive the struggle, then you win. Because if that was true, let's go back to the military. Oh, you're going, oh, well, a Navy SEAL has to go through these horrific things to become a Navy SEAL. The struggle is way forward. It's like, no. 70 years of process and training and clear understanding of this thing will equal this outcome, as opposed to we'll just give it over to chaos and the best will rise.
Right.
That's not how it works.
No,
there's an incredible super controlled, high precision.
Right.
And so it's really fascinating to me too, by the way. I go to enough of these conferences and seminars where they're bringing in leaders and it's always like, hey, let's march out another Navy SEAL or a Green Beret guy and let's do kind of the rah-rah. And it's like, it's very difficult for you at your 80-person company to mimic the hundreds of millions of dollars invested in training super fighters and go like, hey, have the same mentality. It's like, you want the precision and the effort and the intentionality. Let's migrate that. But very little of the rest of the experience can you migrate, because also I don't care about software that much. So for me to be a data engineer and you go, we're going to onboard like, Jocko Willink in his new book and like extreme ownership, you're like, it doesn't work here. But what does work is a place where the leadership has then formulated a training process for management and frontline where it goes, here's your starting point, here's your end point, and there are 40 touch points in between that you can now measure your progress towards. And so again, step 2 is I can now do 25% of the job. We make what's called the oh crap turn down at the bottom of the square, where it goes from, oh, you're doing 75% of the job or more, and I'm doing up to 25. When we make the oh crap turn, we flip-flop. Now I'm doing at least 75% of that particular task, and you're helping with up to 25% of the job. And we can actually live in space 3 forever. We don't actually have to make the move to step 4, because at least at that point you've handed off
Right.
up to 99% of the job. But there's some secret sauce in actually getting to step 4.
So it's like 0, you're just observing, then 25%, then 75%, and then what happens at 4?
So the big barrier to number 4 is management or the executive has to ask the question, not only do I want to replicate this person's ability, their capacity, do I also want to replicate their character? Is this somebody who embodies the culture, and I want them now training our newest people coming into the culture? Because you can know the job, but you may not be able to actually transfer the culture in a way that feels great to me. And so moving to step 4 is now going, I can train anybody new who's coming in. At step 3, you can do up to 99% of the job all the time. If there's a big fire, somebody else can come in and step in and help you out. But you've basically got it under control. Where they move to step 4, which is the replication point. True development is going, I've developed you so well that our goal inside companies is, I'm not looking to build a leader. I'm looking to build a leadership factory where that one leader can make 10 more just like them. And to make that turn to number 4 is making sure not only can you do the hard skill job, the widget making, do you also have the soft skill abilities to replicate the culture and the chemistry and the character of what we're trying to do here at said firm.
So how do you use this tool? Like, where does this come into play? Where are we in this process? Like, what does it practically look like? When do you work with the team and actually bring this in?
Yeah, so if I'm working with, say, a management team, so say there's 10 people on the management team and they oversee another, 50 or 60 people. What I want to know is, for everybody on your team, one, what are all the responsibilities? So if the 8 people that you're managing or the 5 people that you're managing, if by the end of this quarter you were to go, we did it, well, what is it? Okay, so there's a responsibilities list that goes, hey, we can do all these things. Then the next thing I want to know is, with real clarity, hey, take them around the square so you can tell them 0, 25, 75, or you could train. Are you at a 1, 2, 3, or 4 with that particular responsibility? So for instance, I just used this with a manufacturing company in Minnesota. Guy's running a shop as the foreman. He's new, really smart, really dedicated, really on top of things. And I said, hey, what are the 7 wins in the next month? What are the responsibilities that you have? And he listed them out. And I said, okay, now I want you to list 1 through 4. Where do you think you're at? And this guy is in a hard, like, this is a blue collar industry. You don't share vulnerability. You say, I'll figure it out. Don't talk to anybody. But it's a dangerous world that this guy works in. This heavy machinery and things can go wrong. And he listed on there 4, 4, 3, 1, 4, 1. And this guy's now in charge of these things, but hasn't had enough time with somebody training and developing him. So at least now anybody who is leading him can go, oh, this is where we need to spend some time. So as opposed to the general question is, hey, how are things going? It's a well-intentioned but terrible question, as we've talked about. Now it gives a real specificity. Hey, with this responsibility, are you at a 1, 2, 3, or 4? Then I know immediately how much effort do I need to put in to help you to get you to either a 3 or 4 on that task.
And the 1, 2, 3, or 4 is the square.
The square.
So you're observing. You've taken over 25% of it. You're doing almost all of it, but you can't teach it, or you're now at a point where you can teach other people how to do it.
Exactly.
And so anything that you're working through, any goal that you're working towards, you've got other people involved, you can and should just kind of check in with them and see where they're at in the process in terms of how capable and competent they are to execute that.
Yes, because in that moment now, we have moved from incredible ambiguity on what you need from me or what I need from you to incredible clarity with something as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4. And now all of a sudden, to go back to our airplane analogy, I know you're in LA trying to get to New York. And if you tell me you're at a 1, I've got to fly the plane and fuel it and stock it. If you tell me you're at a 4, I'll just see you in New York whenever you get there. And some version in between, we're figuring out, oh, this is how we're getting better and better at this over time.
Huh. Well, that's a good question.
I think so. Where are we in the process? By the way, little side note for human life outside of the workplace. I've found this to be really helpful just in little things when I'm trying to learn and adapt, of going, oh, let me do a little self-audit. If I'm trying to learn how to play the guitar, or I'm trying to learn how to be more emotionally available in this relationship with this person, or I'm trying to walk through conflict, right now, do I have enough of the skills? Do I have enough resources to go, I can do 75% or more of this thing that I want to be good at or want to win at? And if not, oh, I need to go about finding a resource, finding somebody to develop me in that thing. So it's also useful for kind of a self-audit as well.
I think it's not exactly apples to apples, but it's interesting about just like your excitement level as well. Like when you're being shown how to do something, probably eager to get your hands on it, excited. And then when you start transferring some ownership over, you go from 1 to 2, you get even more excited and probably have sort of this false sense of competence and mastery. It's like, I'm doing it, you know? And you're like riding your bike after your dad just kind of pushed you down the street with it. I'm doing it,
Right.
sort of. Like
Sorry.
you've inherited momentum.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, there's that sort of oh crap moment where you go from 2 to 3, where you begin, I think, to really feel the weight of responsibility.
The training wheels came off.
Yeah, and then it kind of sucks for a while.
It does.
And then through that suckiness, you get to a point, potentially get to a point of proficiency where you are able to repeat the cycle and hand it off to somebody else.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of all growth in life, right? Is going, can I be in enough community to get through the scary bits well? Or am I getting through the scary stuff alone and adapting so I can't actually teach that to somebody else? Because this is a problem, right? If this was hard earned by me and my own suffering, and I just put my head down and I became a manager and now you do as well, that's not a scalable way to walk through life. It's not a scalable way to address people development inside a company. There has to be a system. There has to be like a check-in point that goes, oh, it should suck right now. That was
Right.
expected.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, as long as we're in this together, and when it sucks, I can ask you for help to get from 75% of the job to knowing how to do 85% of it or 90% because I need this resource. Oh, I can't do the job for you, but I can go get you a resource. Now all of a sudden there's community, and it's the old proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this helps us know how to go together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, until the next question.